Hi, welcome to the Winning Moves episodes. You have been learning how to play this game of chess. There's yet another important concept when you learn chess. There's one very special move called as castling. Now, what is castling? In those days, when the kings used to go out for war, sometimes some of the kings will come and take refuge in a fortress. You've seen so many fortresses, Red Fort, and so many fortresses in Rajasthan. You can go there and look at it. Beautiful fortresses built by the kings. So when the king is inside the fortress, it's very, very difficult to come near him. Since chess is also a war game, this special move of castling helps you to keep your king safe. After all, the whole game is about the king. And when you go and hunt for the opponent king, it's very important that you keep your king safe. Shall we see? Let's see how a castling takes place in a game of chess. 4, e5, knight comes to f3, this knight comes back to c6, bishop comes to c4, this bishop also comes out. Now, if white plays knight here, you see they're keeping the rules of the center, bringing out rapid development. Knight comes out. Now, white can move his king 2 squares. Watch here, from e1 we can go to g1, 2 squares, and the rook comes adjacent. This is just one move. See again, the king moves 2 squares and the rook comes adjacent. This is just one move, and this is called as castling. C-A-S-T-L-I-N-G. Now this is allowed. So, and black can also similarly castle. Now, there are certain rules regarding castling. Now watch here, as they castle in the king side, in case white plays the pawn here and the black plays the pawn here, the bishop comes out here, this bishop comes out here, and white can also prepare for castling on the queen side. Now, in this particular position, white can either castle on the king side or it can castle on the queen side. When it castles on the queen side also, it goes only 2 squares. The rook comes next to that. And now, this king is absolutely safe because these 3 pawns will act like a shield. The pawns in front of the king, the pawn gives a cover to the king, and it's very, very difficult for the enemy pieces to come and attack the king. The king is safe, absolutely safe in the castle position. The thing that you need to notice when you castle, always touch the king first. If you touch the rook first, then you have to move the rook only. You cannot castle. So when you castle, it's better to touch the king first. You can also you can simultaneously move both the pieces and castle. You can castle like this, but it's preferred that you move the king first and then castle. So this is queen side castling. Similarly, black can also castle queen side. So for castling, the pieces in between should have been removed. You should have removed the pieces in between. Okay, let's see what are the rules that govern castling. In this particular line, we have seen this line before. Take the pawn, castles, knight into pawn, rook attacks the knight, push the pawn, we take the pawn, the queen cuts the bishop. Knight c3, queen a5, now knight into bishop. Now in case black plays here, white knight will come here and give a check. Now when there is a check, whether this is a double check, even if he gives a check here or here, whenever there is a check, you cannot, even if he gives a check here, you cannot castle. The rule number 1, when under check, you cannot castle. Look here, you cannot cut this rook because this is a check there. So when you are under check, you can say, okay, let me cut one rook. No, there is a double check. Either this rook nor that knight, because you are under check and you cannot castle. Because when you are under check, you cannot castle. Hear me clearly, when you are under check, when the king is under attack, the rule is you cannot castle. Look at this position. Now here in this position, if white plays, takes the pawn, black cuts the bishop, white gives a check, king gets back, white castles, and the bishop comes out. Now, in case white plays, you cannot castle. Why you cannot castle? Because the king has already moved. Once the king is moved out of the original square, you cannot castle. Rule 1, when you are under check, you cannot castle. Rule 2, when the king has moved from its original square, you cannot castle. Now this particular position arises from the French defense. Black plays the French, white plays here, and in case he moves the knight to c3, now this is called as French Winawer. The bishop comes out. Now you see, this is a closed center, and whenever the center is closed, you should attack at the rank, at the base of the rank. Now he goes here, he cuts the knight, and I cut it back. A very famous position. Here in this position, if black plays here, white will try to distort the castling. How does he do it? He moves the queen here. Now if he moves the queen here, if the king moves to support the pawn, he immediately loses, relinquishes the opportunity, the ability to castle all the time. That we have already seen. But sometimes the knight is moved here. White comes and cuts the pawn. Black plays the rook there and the queen comes out. Now if the knight is played here and white decides to bring the queen back, now black plays the rook here and white plays the knight here. Here in this case, since the rook has already moved from its original position, you cannot castle. When you are under check, you cannot castle. When the king has moved, you lost the ability to castle. Now here the rook has moved. Since the rook has moved, you cannot castle. But you can play here. When this bishop comes out, he can castle on the queen side. The rook that has not moved, he can castle. So, you see, there are rules that governs castling. When you're under check, you cannot castle. When the king has moved, you cannot castle. If the rook has moved, you cannot castle. Let's see more of the rules that govern castling. This position arrives from Geico-Peano. Look at this. White plays like this. White attacks the pawn. Black supports it. Bishop comes out towards the center. And the black bishop also comes out towards the center. As you know, in Geico-Peano, white tries to control this d4 point and he strengthens it, moves the knight, push the pawn, they cut, and the pawn is again cut. Now here we give a check. Watch carefully. White comes out, black takes the pawn. Now here, white has decided to give away the pawn and he quickly castles. Black thinks he can castle anytime, so he goes and cuts the knight. He's taken a pawn, but delayed his castling. Takes the knight. And now, bishop takes the pawn. Look, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's 2 pawns up, but white attacks the bishop. He attacks the bishop and attacks the rook. We have seen that bishop takes rook will not help after bishop into pawn. So black wants to castle. He very happily doesn't want to, knows that if he cuts the pawn, the king will move, he doesn't want to castle. So he stops that angle. Now white will stop the castling. You either stop it, if you give a check, the bishop will come and cut the rook. So he placed the bishop here. Now watch here. Here, the square that the king is crossing is under attack. Because the square that the king is crossing under attack, you cannot castle. That is, you cannot castle when any one of the square which the king is crossing is under attack. So here, if he wants to castle, he should move the knight back, cover that square, and then only he can castle. Dear viewers, let me ask you a question. Can white castle in this position? I will also tell you that the king has not moved. Neither this rook nor that rook has moved. Can he castle now? Look at this position. Is he under check? No. Can he castle on the king side? Yes or no? Do you see the bishop there? The bishop is attacking a square in which the king is moving, so he cannot castle. Can he castle on the queen side? Looks, it's okay. But watch, there is a queen attacking the d1 point, so you cannot castle. It's a very clear example why white cannot castle when any of the squares which is under attack is castled. Obviously, if the bishop is here, you cannot castle into a check. So when the square the king is moving, you cannot castle into a check. That's also very, very clear. But let's assume that the queen is here. When I take this knight, now the rook is under attack. Can you castle? The rule says when the rook is under attack, you can castle. The whole castling is about the king. So if the king is under attack, you cannot castle. You cannot castle into a check. When any of the squares in which the king is traveling is under attack, you cannot castle. But when the rook is under attack, you can happily castle. There is no problem at all. Now this gives us another position where the bishop is here and the pawn is here. Now watch this position. Black is castled. Can white castle now? Can white castle now in this position? Can white castle now? Watch this. Can you castle? The king has not moved. The rook has not moved. So you find the king is not under check. There is one square which the rook is moving is under attack. Can you castle or not? The rule is you can castle. Whether the bishop is here attacking the rook, even when the rook is under attack, you can castle. Or any square which the rook is moving is under attack, you can still castle. Because the king doesn't cross, only rook crosses, so you are allowed to castle. I hope it's very clear. Let me repeat. When you're under check, you cannot castle. When the king has moved, forever you lose the privilege of castling. When one of the rook is moved in that direction, you cannot castle. And when any of the squares in which the king moves is under attack, you cannot castle. If the rook is under attack, you can castle. Any of the square in which the rook is moving is under attack, you can still castle. When I was a little boy, my father and mother used to accompany me for a tournament. And every time I lose a game without castling, my father will get really upset. He will say, "Why don't you castle? And then if you lose the game, it's okay." Because he feels that's a basic rule that you should do. But as a little boy, when I see a pawn that's hanging in the board, I will go for the pawn. I will cut the pawn. I'll enjoy cutting the pawn. I'll think, okay, I can always castle. What's the big hurry? I'm getting a pawn. Let me go hunt for the pawns in the beginning. But alas, by the time I realized, my opponent would have given me a pawn or two and got advantage to finish my king. So the king's safety is very, very important. The whole game is about the king. So you should ensure your safety. When you go for attack, you should ensure your safety. And there are a lot of preparation that can be made. See, castling, let me show you a particular position where it is very, very interesting to see how King's Indian defense, how they would see the castling is done. Watch here, d4, and this particular line is called as the King's Indian defense, played by the famous Bobby Fischer in the 1970s, and world champion Kasparov. Anand plays, and I also play with black this line. Now this particular concept is called as fianchetto. What is that? Fianchetto. Look at this. The place is made for the bishop. Now bishop acts like a sentry. Now this is called as fianchetto. Now what does black do? It now he castles. Look at this. It's a very, very important structure. Fianchetto. This is king side fianchetto. Now this bishop will act like a sentry. He will wait like in a fortress. He will simply wait to see, hey, who is coming? And this bishop is a very, very powerful piece. It will not let this knight and bishop will protect the king. Absolutely. Nobody can come near it. It's a very interesting concept, very interesting structure where you make the king safe. So each person has his own style of building a fortress, building a tower. Many times we also think, if only I have an hiding place. When you're under trouble, you think, okay, I want to hide, isn't it? You really want to run around. Sometimes your home is really nice, it's a hiding place. I always get reminded whenever I have a trouble of a small picture where it's a tempest, it's a tremendous tempest blowing all over. There's a waterfalls, but amidst the waterfalls, there's a rock, and in that rock there's a small cleft. A sparrow will get inside that cleft. The storm will be there everywhere, but there'll be a waterfalls, but that sparrow is happy and safe inside that cleft of the rock. So very interesting picture. When trouble goes all around, it found an hiding place. Many times, if you keep the king in the center of the board, you will have trouble. Don't keep your king in the center of the board. Will you go and stand on the main road? If you go and stand on the Mount Road in Chennai, you'll be hit without anybody will hit you just like that. Similarly, when you play the game, ensure you castle. Many times we are looking out for a tower. Once I was captaining the Madras University team, and that particular year, I was made captain for the third consecutive year. Generally, the Madras University makes a player a captain for only 1 year. That particular year, I was made the captain for the third time in succession. And the particular Mr. Pandurangan, the secretary, walked down to the station and said, Ebenezer, looks like we've lost a lot of titles this year, man. And only chance is in chess. Kindly ensure you come back with the All India trophy. I was playing a very important game against Rahul Shetty. Now he's an international master. He was a Bombay University team captain. Very interesting game. The team championship is played by 4 players. And I had spent all my time playing and I got into minus position. I had to make 17 moves in that particular position. Imagine making 17 moves to finish in about 50 seconds. It looked like I will not survive. Chess players get tensed. They do a lot of things. They shake their leg. But I wanted a tower. The tension was really building and everybody was standing on the top of the table watching whether that game will decide the event. So I needed a hiding place. I was reminded of a passage in the scripture which says, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. I closed my eyes and kept reciting it. Suddenly, to my surprise, when I opened my eyes, I saw that Shetty blundered and gave away his queen. And little later, he pushed the pieces and walked away, signing his loss. And that year, we went on to win. The Madras University we won the All India Inter-University Championship. We came back with a trophy. So we all need a hiding place. Similarly, the king also has a wonderful hiding place in castling. Now we know that we need to castle, but when to castle and which side to castle is a very important question. Look at this Sicilian defense. So this is called as a closed Sicilian thing, and the line goes like this. White attacks this pawn, black supports it, white plays the queen up, and black moves. Bishop here, knight e7. Now black is getting ready for castling. Now knowing that he's going to castle on the king side, and I told you this is fianchetto, now black makes it a safety to keep this bishop here. And whites, when you want to break the castle position, try removing the sentry. In the fianchetto, remove the sentry here. Now watch here. There's a lot of attack going on this side. I'm trying to remove that sentry. The fellow who's guarding the castle, I'm expecting him to castle. Now, in case black thinks, okay, it's okay, let me castle, I'll protect that bishop. Now this is not right. You have castled, but there's a lot of trouble on that side. Now this is not the place to go and take refuge. Where are you taking refuge? Where is your confidence? Where is your trust? You put it in the wrong place. Look here. He cuts the, he attacks. When your opponent castles, you should do a pawn storming. Now this is the best method to break the structure there. If he doesn't really mind, and if he moves the bishop here, I push this pawn. Look, this rook is going to attack the last line. Now what is my plan? I'm going to cut this pawn, and when he cuts the pawn, I will cut this bishop. He will cut this bishop. Now watch here. Now both the rook and the queen gets into attack. If he comes here, I'll give a check. Cuts it. Check. The king will come for a walk where he's supposed to be. The castle position brought him, and that's a checkmate. You see, you should know where to castle. When there is a lot of, you should sometimes wait whether you should castle on the king side or you should castle on the queen side. It's good to castle early, but also look at the board. What's happening? Which side are you taking the king? It's not safe to keep the king in the center, but also if it's not always good to castle without realizing where the action. Now let's look at one more game. It went on like this. When I was 5 years old, I started playing chess and I joined the Russian Cultural Center. At that time, we had a very good chess player called Mr. Manuel Aaron, who was a 9 times national champion of India. He was an international master, and he was showing me this game then when I was a little boy. The knight comes here and white takes the pawn. White is happy taking a pawn. The queen comes and attacks the knight. Now, white is very, very happy to take another pawn, and he says, fork, queen is under attack, the rook is also under attack. The queen comes and cuts the pawn. The rook is under attack. He has lost. Now you cannot castle. You have to move the rook. See, white has gone pawn hunting. That's all he did. Now, white queen comes and cuts the pawn and gives a check. Naturally, queen cannot come. The knight is there. Bishop comes to cover it. Now look at white's pathetic position. Now can you see the mate? Where is the mate? That's right. The knight comes here and gives a check, and the king is finished just within few moves. Look at the game. If you look at the game, what happened? He simply went for a pawn, and before he could even see what is happening, he was a little greedy for pawns and pieces. He neglected his castling, and he paid for it royally. Watch this position. Now we have seen today that when you are under check, you cannot castle. Castling is very, very important, but you cannot castle when you are under check. When any one of the squares which the king moves is under attack, you cannot castle. All the pieces should have been cleared for you to castle. And when you are under check, you cannot castle. When one of the squares is under attack, you cannot castle. When the rook is under attack, you can castle. Similarly, when one of the squares which the rook moves is under attack, you can castle. So with that, you're very, very clear. You know how to castle. Whenever you play the game, ensure that you prepare yourself to bring all your pieces out. Ensure that you can castle either king side or queen side. Think, don't delay your castling and don't rush your castling. Look at the game and ensure you're in a safe place. Little children, you're watching this episode. Let me tell you, always be in the safe place. Rush to the fortress. Rush to your home. Don't stand on the main road. When you're walking the road, you should be very, very careful. Similarly, take care of your king when you play the game. When the king is safe, the game is safe. So make your winning moves rushing to your hiding place. So this is Ebenezer saying bye from Winning Moves.